It's the True Penny Show with your host, James True Penny.
Hello and welcome to the first recording of 2026. However, I'm recording out of Odyessey. Maybe the second show of 2026 is actually recorded in 2026, but not by myself, which is actually probably last week. Apologies. The great, the wonderful Mr. Marcus Green of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, was suffering a minor issue of the horrific weather that Louisiana gets. And regular True Penny Show listeners will know that this is a recurring theme in Marcus's life. God bless him. He's all right. We'll be recording later today. And you'll hear that first before you hear this, so that might weird you out. In the meantime, let's bring us back to reality. Let's bring us back to the 25th of January, a pro wrestling Noah show called Noah Lethal Odyssey Tour 2026. We were in Edion Arena, Osaka, number 2. And to join me is an incredible fan of Noah, who is a graced our presence many times before and is joining us. It's Ruth. How are you, Mom?
I am good. I now do not know what day or time it is, but I am very good for the day or time or whatever it is.
It's a week last Tuesday.
Yeah, it really is.
It may as well be. First of all, Happy New Year. It's a bit late for that. We're on the 1st of February when we're recording this. However, we last looked at Noah during our Christmas run. Has there been any major changes we need to know before we embark upon this journey?
Well, I think we get to see all of them through the course of this, but obviously, I suppose the major issue here is Team 2000X, and they are their continued expansion, and I guess the young guys who we're going to talk about probably fairly early on. I guess the other context for this show is also that we have the tag league coming up, the junior tag league, which I have been begging Noah for many, many years. It should be a mainstay of their calendar, but sadly hasn't been for a while. I'm not sure really how much we actually get to see of a preview of tag league in this show, but in theory, that is some of the context.
Oh, there we go. I think this is the interesting thing with junior heavyweight tag wrestling. It really wasn't a thing until the late 90s, and I think it was War, Wrestling and Romance who really kicked it off with their first tag division, which was so influential because New Japan were like, oh, you're really good at this, maybe we should try that. And obviously that's been a mainstay of that division. Then I think it was a couple of years after that that Noah went, well, we best do that then, really, haven't we? Which was a kind of a theme of Noah. Obviously, All Japan haven't bothered with an All Japan tag division yet, because they've got the All Asian tag team titles, which is kind of a catch weight, open weight, if you will, in the modern terminology. So it's intriguing that they're going back to this tournament, and obviously that puts the fact that they've got some faith in their junior heavyweights to be able to carry off a tournament like this anyway.
I hope so. I think they also have a very sizable junior division, I think, at this point. Traditionally they've run these things with getting a decent amount of outsiders, 2 or 3 outside teams. And that's how they've managed to do it. But they're pretty well weighted in terms of the number of people they can run that are either regulars or signed members of the roster. So it feels like a no-brainer at this point when you have a junior division that is also very heavily stacked. And I think you have a decent number of contenders for the main singles belt. You're going to need to give them something else.
Yeah, I think so. And well, let's talk about that because that was the opening match. Daiki Adashima, Aita Katsuma Inahata, Dori Takahashi, and Yuto Koyanagi. Did I get any of them wrong?
Nope, that's the guys.
Going well. Amaxa, Blackman Saray, Hiroto Tsuraya, Manu Busoya, and Tetsuya Endo. This went 8 minutes and 32 seconds and featured many people from many different factions. But the general gist was, look at our fine young new boys who are going to do very, very well. Don't they look lovely and resplendent in their new gear, which I really enjoyed. And also, it was cool to see the young guys getting quite the showcase arranged around the serious veterans as well. I thought that was really interesting. But it was certainly, you kind of got the idea. We've got these kids and they're really good, so we should show them off. It felt like that to me anyway.
Yeah, do you have much of a sense of the new guys? Like, I mean, helpfully they are color-coded, which has been very useful so far to get a sense of them. But yeah, do you have a favorite?
I don't. I'm trying to think now. I'm looking at this because of the who was it? Who was the gentleman in the black tights who started the match? He for the Adash Morita team. I can't remember his name. Obviously, I'm having problems remembering which was which. Yeah, I think that's possibly part of the issue. When you do lump them all out there in one go, that's going to cause you some problems. But he seemed very fiery and wanted to have a crack, which I liked and I appreciated. But I had general gist of they're all really good and they're all crisp. And 19 is kind of Joshy levels of putting them out there. Because, you know, New Japan guys don't get out there till they're nearly 30. A couple of kids coming along before they've actually started a pro wrestling career. Similarly, the opposite happens in like TJPW, where you can make your debut at 12. So yeah, it's a nice balance. I feel it's like they're young and still. I think, you know, from Crispy's perspective, she often talks about this with Noah, is that she finds it hard to invest because everything moves so quickly as far as storylines is concerned and characters change so often. So I think like putting them out into the public eye from like 1920 and giving them time to grow up in public, because they tend to have a longer gestation period than like young boys in New Japan, don't they, really? Or so, you know, maybe start 19, but they won't really be into main roster territory until they're 23, 24, and they're less likely to go on excursions. So I think it really gives the fans a chance to kind of cling on to them and develop, see how they develop. So I appreciate them a lot from that point of view.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yuto Black Pants was my first pick as favorite from the three that kind of initially debuted at Korakuen, and I think he's got some real fire. Although Daiki, who now obviously young guy but head of all the young guys, and is taking his position as boss of all the young guys very, very seriously, keeps posting pictures of Yuto in bed at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So I don't know, for all his fire, I don't know how serious he is.
Probably wearing himself out early in the morning.
He's clearly had a very busy day by 2 p.m., taken a nap. So he's doing really, really well, I think, as a kind of a starting point. I think he's one of the ones that they're going to take longer about. And I think all of these guys, this is the first time in ages we've had like a crop, as it were, of guys. And knowing we're going to have those young guys probably for 2 years now before they're really breaking out. It's great. It's going to be great seeing how they grow and how different they are and kind of what alliances they make. And you do kind of, you're in for the long haul with them, which is nice. But we do have Inahata, who is, he actually had 2 years in JTO, won a championship there. And he basically came back and started from scratch. A year ago, was willing to completely start from scratch. And he has really taken after Daisuke Harada, previous kind of big junior, who retired a couple of years ago, partly because they worked together. They worked together in the same gym in Osaka. Inahata is an Osaka boy from the same area as Jun Masako, actually. And so now my favoritism for Osaka boys means that I do have to transfer onto Inahata, and Daisuke Harada is my favorite wrestler, and actually Inahata won this with Daisuke Harada's move and then a follow-up. So that is like, I mean, he's done this kind of twice now, and it's basically instant tears for me because Harada retired under, very kind of painful circumstances, and that he had an injury where he couldn't continue wrestling, still relatively young, kind of in the peak of his career. So somebody else getting a chance to use that and make the most of it is pretty adorable. But the thing that made me laugh about this is now like the second or third time that Eita is essentially leading the crash. Which I don't imagine he saw his career as, but is doing really, really well. And this is basically where this match ended up going, is that for the tag league, Eita, for I guess it's the second year in a row, has been entering with a team called TBA, to be announced. Previously did it with Daiki, who has done incredibly well off the back of it. And this time was saying, well, I've got this big guy, big star, he's going to come in with me. But Inahata grabs the microphone in Osaka, his hometown, and starts shouting and saying, "No, it's got to be me, please, please, it's got to be me." Which Eita refuses repeatedly. He's like, "No, I'm sorry, I've got somebody who's a bigger name than you." Like, and everyone here isn't cheering. Like, I'm really not sure about that. He plays it absolutely beautifully. But Eita, again, is going to be leading one of the young guys into a team. So we'll see how they do.
As a sneaky Rudos, he really has grown into the role of being like lead babyface of the Noah Junior Heavyweight division. Which, if you like watched him when he first turned up, you would go, no.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's not his reputation. It's not what he's really bringing in from Dragon Gate. But he's got to a position now where he both. I think there are points where it was like he's not. People had very strong expectations from what he was in Dragon Gate. He can't wrestle like that anymore. He absolutely destroyed his body through several years. And did some incredible stuff. And nor should he have to kind of put himself through that on a regular basis for people's amusement. But he's now putting on some like really just incredibly solid and then really impressive matches, whilst also being able to work this character stuff in the middle. And I'm just really happy for the guy.
Yeah, he's got such like presence, and clearly it's for Noah as far as like being a center for a division that is traditionally chaotic, and everything could move around him as the one focal point. Though obviously Baxter is champion at the moment, who also equally has a calming effect on those around him.
Yes. Actually, yeah. Very
it's
good.
about as relatively peaceful as it has been for a good 5 or 6 years, to be honest. So yeah. Shall we move on to the next match?
Indeed.
This was All Rebellion, Gulano, Harutoki, and Kaito Kiyomiya. They went up against Hajime Ohara, Muhammad Yone, and the returning Quiet Storm. I love me some Quiet Storm. He always repeats shows that involve Quiet Storm. I will tag him in this and hope he listens. And I've missed him since I stopped watching Glate. And he has returned from Glate, having been distraught that Bulk Orchestra was disbanded, and he went and joined Black Generation International, and now he's back where he belongs with his tag team partner of Funky Powers 50, Muhammad Yone, and everything is right with the world.
I think that was pretty much what the commentary was on this match.
What do you think?
Things returned.
Yeah. And this is what you want in a Quiet Storm match. It was big lads hitting each other really hard and grimacing and growling and going "Urgh," and it makes me smile. It's a base hoop. It's a basic clap, and I enjoy it greatly for what it is. It's not like Luthez versus Ricky Dozan or anything, but it's fantastic from my particular point of view. I love Quiet Storm. I love him just generally, and it's just nice to see him. No, he was the entire focus of the match. Other people were involved too, including other former Bulk Orchestra member Galano, which is like really weird watching them wrestle each other because I'm like, no, this is wrong.
Which is my experience of watching Glade, because I'm kind of like, it's all the people in Osaka Pro in the wrong combination.
Like, it's just wrong is the I think is probably the thing. Sorry, Suzuki-san, you do wonderful things. Fucking terrible things too. Not doing them, but I like the way you present professional wrestling. It's the professional wrestlers you choose to present. This is my problem at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But there
Choices.
we go. Yes, choices have been made that I don't agree with. Where are we? But yes, this was a fun match, big gun wrestling match in many senses. And yeah, it's just interesting to see where a lot of these people are, because obviously they're quite big names. Ian being obviously the obvious one, because he's not really in a lot of stuff going on at the moment as far as this card is concerned. But what's the ongoing storyline? Because obviously he's quite important to the story of Noah in general.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to tell, because we came out of the kind of New Year show going, well, it seemed like there might be some kind of turning in or rebellion. It wasn't who we really kind of expected when Kai turned. It felt like something was going on with Haratoki and Jack. It's kind of all simmered down and glossed over a little bit. And Haratoki's still kind of like, he came out of this match being like, oh, doesn't Kaito like me so much? He told me to do my hair this way. Which ponytail looks great, Haratoki. Yeah, keep it up. Kaito's brother is a hairdresser.
That explains an awful lot.
So there's like something going on here, but I don't really know. Kaito also came out of this match going, tickets for Korakuen are selling great and they haven't even announced my match. What the heck is going on? So he's still being the mad prince of Noah. He's still trying to be the kind of personality, but he does need to take a back seat occasionally. But I also kind of like the Kaito that doesn't quite take a back seat and goes, wait, you've got my profile wrong. Why am I not on the front cover of Shupro? Like, let him have his moment.
There is a level of arrogance that has developed into him
Yeah.
over the last few years, which is nice to see. I don't mind a bit of it.
And I also think it's very Noah. Like, by the time you get to be the guy right at the top, you've got to be really full of yourself.
Oh, yeah.
So he's just growing
up. I think this is the thing. Anyone who's in Noah carries a lot of baggage. Let's be honest. A company born out of, like, tragedy and distress and turning on a lifelong tradition is going to, like, cause some issues for the follow-up. And it's 25 years in now, and it's showing no signs of slow down. There are people who wrestle for Noah that weren't born when Noah started, yet carry all the weight of Misawa and Kobashi and Teiyu and Akiyama on their shoulders on a daily basis. And that's lovely, but also horrible.
Yeah, it is the really weird balance of Noah. I think it's one of the things I love about it is like they do a whole weight of legacy thing. I think really well. They do lean into the kind of some element of tragedy of it, but in a sense of out of tragedy new things are born, and out of disaster new things are born. And I think that there's a cultural element to that, but in terms of storytelling, it's really, really strong. But God, sometimes you think it's exhausting. You think, kid, can you just have some fun?
Yeah, I think
it's hard.
I know. It's like I hate to do like the New Japan comparison, it's the obvious thing to do, but it feels to me like Strong Style is a brand New Japan use, and kind of indicates their storytelling style, whereas the legacy of Noah, and specifically that certain style of Kings Road Wrestling, is absolutely the be-all and end-all. Even though Kings Road Wrestling is more fluid, it's a more adaptable style, and you can look at the number of companies that have been very successful using Kings Road style booking and storytelling. It seems to me like the New Japan guys have an easier time of it. Like, they're not always compared to the greats of the past. They do. Like, I compare Murashima to Shinya Hashimoto a lot because, he's got the same style. He's like a happy Shinya Hashimoto, opposed to a miserable, which is what we got. But it's not like I'm expecting him to be a perfect clone of Hashimoto. He's gonna be his own person. Whereas the Noah stuff does seem to be much more kind of ingrained, and I find that really interesting from, like you said, from a cultural point of view.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
It is, and I also think we end up with, certainly in the West, and this is partly the problem of media and media kind of rules in Japan and what we've been able to see, but I think a lot of Western fans see Noah through the kind of Misawa, post-Misawa up to Misawa's death, and then also the Suzuki Gun era. And obviously there was also a lot of good and bad stuff that happened in the middle. But what we tend to hark back to are those two things, and it happens in storylines as well. A lot of casting back as to those kind of two eras, and it's a shame because actually, some of their junior heavyweight stuff in the middle, absolutely outstanding. Some of my favorite wrestlers had their high points in that middle kind of period, so it is a shame that we don't kind of pick up on all of it. But yeah, everybody comes in and is like, how do you, whatever you are doing right now, relate to something of that? Which is why I'm quite taken with Inahata harking back to what is essentially a more recent and not Noah-born person in Harada, but I think is like as solid and as kind of well taken. And we're getting more and more kind of people, I guess, Ogawaism and that kind of stuff certainly kind of coming through to what we have in terms of younger guys. So I do wonder if it is going to shift a little bit. I also wonder if it's going to shift with what is a more American style influence. I won't say, Soli Nosawa, and I won't say it's sort of purely to do with the WWE kind of relationships. I think a lot of people see this as a really recent thing. It's not, people in Noah have loved that American style for decades at this point. But we do seem to be shifting more for kind of a commercial way of storytelling that isn't totally in that legacy vein. And Ozawa, I don't think is totally in that legacy vein. So
no, he's absolutely not. And that's the intriguing part. Is like they obviously want to retain that because that's what the fans kind of like watch Noah for in the first place. But equally, they're not going to grow their audience if they just try and maintain a legacy fan base of guys in my age.
Yeah.
Because I love it, but equally, it's like I understand things move on.
And it's a good time too, because business is not always booming everywhere, and they're doing okay right now.
Yeah, that's the thing, and is like and I think as well, people have like odd time sections of certain periods of like wrestling. Like there was a kind of popular conception that the early 2000s were a bit dead, and then you go back and watch those shows, and like they were really good.
Yeah.
It's like me and Dara watched a show from the 2011 DDT show, and like it was a big card, and there was loads of people. Io Sky was on it, and she was she was like 23 and fearless. So you can imagine like now she's like 35 and careful, and she does those things. You can imagine what she was like back then. So it is just like everyone's got an opinion on a time period because of the way business is concerned, but everything floats and moves, and we'll be back somewhere else, and we've had the same conversation in 5 years' time about something else. We've had a bit of a decide there. What did you think of the match?
It was fun. I have had plenty of Quiet Storm because he's in a Soccer Pro. So I see plenty of the guy. I think he's probably going to come back and hang out with Yono, and I think that's a reasonable kind of thing. It's always funny when you look at guys like Yono and you're like, how, like, I don't understand your age. Your age and the way you're moving do not compute to me in any kind of way. And he's just a big scary dude, but also so like fun.
And he's like the first, when we did the beginner's guide to Japanese wrestling, and we will go back and find his old cards. The first card we find Yone on was when he was in Kingdoms, the shoot promotion, because he's actually a badass shooter. That's his job. The afro and the disco notes is something he's just picked up along the way.
So I do love Yone, and I love, like, it's been, I don't know, it might be a year and a half or so now since he's had like a really big singles match where you've got like full Yone, but like from how he moved in this match, he could do it tomorrow. Like he just can. And it's incredible. But yeah, I think he'll be back. Fun match, but not a great deal to it, especially for the kind of level of Kaito being in here. It's interesting.
Shall we move on?
It does.
Team 2000X, Yun Masa Kitamiya and Tadasuke defeated Atsushi Kotoge, Hiroki, and Keno in 8 minutes and 2 seconds. This was more Team 2000 shenanigans. Your shenanigans, your shenanigan, as they do so often. For those of you who are not familiar with Noah, Team 2000 are the big heel group. They do rely an awful lot on interference when things aren't going their way. But they are all class wrestlers, so they're all worth watching and have fun with those matches. And it's if you find House of Touch annoying, you will probably find this annoying, but it's not as annoying in my head as a guide, if that makes sense. Because again, I appreciate House of Touch for they are, but I am a grumpy old man who doesn't like it. So there we are. I'm honest with in my dislike of such things. But there we go. I understand why it's there, and it makes money, and certainly Team 2000 has had a major influence on the gate of Noah over the last year, especially considering like some of their biggest stars are in that particular organization, and has been a major driving force narratively for the group. But this was a fun watch, and it was interesting seeing certain people. I'm trying to think now. What was I looking at? Yeah, Keno in this setting is intriguing because he's kind of like the absolute perfect foil for Team 2000X, being all about honor and Team Noah, not Team Noah, but he's in a different faction, but he's like Noah pride and all of those things that he is. And yet they never seem to have managed to get a match involving him, and I'm wondering if they're saving that for something big, because he seems to be always on the periphery of a Team 2000X story, but never the focus. And I'm wondering if that's something that's going to happen down the line.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that one?
I on that particularly, I think that will happen. I think also there are some guys who I feel are being kept away from Ozawa because there is a path for Ozawa that goes through them.
Yeah.
Eventually, and we're talking really long term. And I think Keno is one of those. I mean, obviously they've clashed already, but I think there's a bigger like payoff at some point where ideologically those two will really butt heads. And the same with Marufuji. I mean, obviously that didn't pay off in kind of the N1, but I do think again there will be something that's much more ideologically about Noah that happens for them. I do feel like we're just going through this period at the moment though where we're getting like these shades of Congo, and I don't know if it's because Keno is like moving around so many different kind of teams and matchups in these kind of multi-man things that I'm just being like, what is the connection to Keno and everybody else here? Oh, it's Congo. So he's in with guys that he brought in. He's facing primarily Congo guys, apart from obviously Misako, who's new. The parallel with House of Torture, I think for me here, some of the frustrations with House of Torture, or how I've been frustrated with how people read House of Torture, is like, again, those guys, some of them are like incredible wrestlers, but they haven't had the opportunity always to show that off. And so there can be people who've watched House of Torture for a year and have no concept.
Yeah, that's the
those
issue.
guys do.
Yeah.
And that bothers me, and it worries me about Team 2000X as well. Especially being somebody who likes Misako a lot, and he's only just come in, but has almost immediately gone into that faction.
I think it's easier in Noah because look how many people have lost already. They've been together for 18 months, and like DAGA's left and Jack Morris has left, and I think someone else has left as well. So they can cycle a bit more. Whereas if you're in House of Torture, you're there for 4 years at least. And so like people don't know Sho from his matches with Vingy 3K, and they don't know Uncle Nobu's history in Noah and AJPW, and they don't know all of these incredible wrestlers that don't get to show that side because they do. I think Kanemaru is a really good example of how he gets the best out of showing his skills off without losing his heat, because he's an actual wrestling genius. He is absolutely getting the absolute most as he can out of this career that seems to have gone on since he was like 5, and will probably still continue until he's 90, because he's managing to do minimal work for maximum profit, which is something I always respect. And obviously I'm a big fan of Yuge because he does nothing and still manages to earn a massive living from New Japan Pro Wrestling. There's the people who say New Japan's cooked. No, if anything's going to happen, it's because Yujiro's asked for a pay rise and he's broken the company after 20 years of service of doing absolute minimal professional wrestling for his paycheck, which I adore and I think is fantastic. However, yes, it's not necessarily my cup of tea. So Team 2000, kind of a bit more my cup of tea, because the wrestling comes first and the interference is a last resort as opposed to point of getting there. So yeah, I enjoy this, and I think they've got such a good crew as well, and there's so many stories left to tell, and you've got circulation. But yeah, I think I understand where you're coming from, but I think it's less of an issue with Team 2000.
I hope we did see more Misako here than we have done. I mean, it's entirely within his personality to also fuck about. That's from his previous career, so it's not necessarily a new thing, but he really can wrestle, and I want people to see that he really can wrestle. He's not just a pretty boy, though he is a pretty boy, and they talked about that on commentary a fair amount.
Am I remembering things wrong? But didn't they get disqualified in this match? Oh, it's the next match in it, not that one. My bad.
No, we had Massa here. We had a very large man to solve problems in this situation.
That was it. That was the whole. Yes, that was the thing.
Yeah. This one did annoy me slightly in that it's a tag team preview. Like, it's a tag tournament preview. You've got High 69 and Kotoge on one side, Osaka. You've got Tadasuke and Masaka on the other side, Osaka. Kind of the two kind of native team, essentially. We're adopting High 69, Hiroki. And, you have this kind of heat of a clash potentially, but all four of those guys can comfortably lose in Noah and comfortably lose in Noah on a regular basis. So I'm like, it's not necessarily about the singles clashes. I wanted to see more of their tag work, because that's the thing that I think is going to matter for both of those teams. And it's the thing that's a strength for both of those teams because of their prior relationships. And I didn't really get much of that. But, it's a mid-card match. It was a laugh.
Yeah, not everything can be the driving line behind a story all the time.
No.
Otherwise.
I wanted more time with my Osaka boys and tag team wrestling because it's my favorite things. I had my opportunity for all of my favorite things, and it didn't quite happen.
We support tag team wrestling on the Troopany Show more than any other kind of wrestling except Joshi. I think we do love our tag team wrestling. Tag team wrestling is fantastic.
Beautiful.
It is. It's a glorious thing. It's the true art form of professional wrestling. Next up, intriguing. Alejandro went up against Naomichi Marufuji. 2 minutes and 33 seconds. It's an interesting singles match to have. It's kind of obviously a proving ground kind of match for Alejandro against a heavyweight and a legendary former junior heavyweight. And there was some good stuff in this match. I enjoyed it, but I feel there was only ever going to be one winner, and it was going to come violently, and it did. Which does make me feel what was the point in this, but it was good for what it was. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it gave Alejandro quite the rub in the I lost to a veteran sense, but it was intriguing me as to why this happened. But it wasn't it was an entertaining match. I can see the point to an extent, but it's kind of, why are we doing this? Unless Alejandro's off on a big babyface run, and if he is, then he needs to be winning matches like this. So I'm like, what do you think?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Like, I kind of went into this being like, I get it, but I don't get it. Like, it is such a common story trope. And now a guy wants to level up as a junior. You fight the biggest name junior in the roster, and you fight Marufuji, and you lose. That is part of the deal. But you somehow level up through the experience.
Yes.
We did it before 2 years ago. So from Alejandro's point of view, I'm like, what? So now you're back in, well, more than 2 years ago. Oh my God, I'm old. 2022, I think. And it took him till 2024 to really get the level up from that. So I'm like, as far as I'm concerned, this is not, we're not moving forward with this for him.
It's a holding station kind of match.
Yeah, and he did get some great stuff off early on. I think he looked really good. I prefer his tag work. I just, I've wanted him, and I thought he was going to have a bit of a breakout year in 24, 25. And then I got out of his black pants, and I was like, oh, you saw your brother's overtaking you by a mile now. But I really thought he was going to get something off the back of, he had a wonderful run in Dragon Gate with Kaito. And yeah, I thought there was going to be a high point for him. That eased off. I don't think this is the next step up. Especially don't understand why it's the next step up going into a tag league. Marufuji's, working at heavyweight now. Like, it's not even quite the same thing.
No.
And by the end, it somewhat felt like this was also just a vehicle for Marufuji to try out something new, which apparently he's had for 15 years, but to try out kind of a new kind of moveset. And I'm like, I did not enjoy that.
No, you could have done that in the gym.
Yeah.
And I do love the fact that Marufuji kind of like innovates constantly. And he saw
Yes.
somebody, I think he saw somebody in WWE do a botch, so he turned it into a move to resurrect it. I can't remember who it was. He actually like tagged them in the response, and I'm like, that's borderline disrespectful. We can't take the team Marufuji, so they're gonna go, okay. Yeah.
And that.
Yeah. Hey, look at this thing. You screwed up on international television that millions of people saw. I've made it better. Yeah. But yeah, they could have he could have done that in the gym. Or against a heavyweight that needed the rub. Like one of those young gentlemen in the opening match.
Yeah.
A chance. Just a thought.
It wasn't, I mean, nothing about this was bad. I just felt like it was a bit of let's go to this because it's the only thing we can do on this card, and it kind of has some story element to it rather than something that's actually going to make a difference for either guy. And Marufuji had a laugh. They're both good. They both can pull out good singles if they want to, but it's also not the best for either of them right now.
Yeah. The next match intrigued me for different reasons, and I think other people will have found it intriguing, which was Bushi versus Hayata. And the reason why I found it intriguing was I was all in on Naito's debut, like a lot of us were, because it's like we're going to get to see Naito in Japan again, and this is going to be intriguing how he's going to do it. But I was also concerned about what happens when we're not in a big arena and we're in front of 800 people in Osaka. Well, not even 800 people, 250 people in Osaka. And it's like, and we got an absolute top line Bushi, and I really enjoyed it. Apparently, the people at Cage Match did not enjoy this. This got a terrible rating. I was like, this is really cool. And this is one of the reasons why they left New Japan, was because Naito believed that Bushi was a top line worker and he should be able to have those opportunities. And he wanted absolutely to do his level best for his mate and give him the opportunity to shine, which he wasn't, because he was never going to be more than 2 or 3 years of wins guys in World Tag League, Super J Tag League, and maybe finish positively in Best of Super Juniors. He was never going to have the opportunity in New Japan that he would do anywhere else. And so this was kind of intriguing, and certainly my disagreements with match quality, because I thought the match quality was really interesting. Watching Bushi wrestle in this environment was really interesting because he was doing things he wouldn't normally do in New Japan. A lot more submission based, a lot more long-term, like trying to get that Indian deathlock that he had on and trying to keep that on for a long period of time, which is not something he did, taking his time, pacing himself more. Just an intriguing watch from a guy I've seen so many times doing things completely differently. And I liked this from this particular point of view. Hayata is an interesting choice for this particular opponent, because obviously he can go with pretty much anyone. So I disagree with Cage Match crew. I hope you're all right, lads, but I'm not with you on this one. I thought this was actually fun and entertaining, but maybe it's my personal stakes that did that. What about you, Ruth? Because you will have a different perspective on this from me.
I was curious but not invested in this. Like I was pretty confident Bushi was going to come in and show people things that they haven't seen from him, because we know that he hasn't had that space. Yeah. And I'm confident in him as a good wrestler. And, you know, frankly, if Naito thinks you're a good wrestler, I think you're probably going to be all right. But there's something for me about a Hayata singles match is a Hayata singles match. I think there are certain guys who wrestle who it becomes their match. But not necessarily through story or anything like that. They just end up not giving to an opponent's style in the same way. And I don't know. But I felt like my read of this was, this is a Hayata singles match. I don't love a Hayata singles match, to be honest. I prefer him in tags. I prefer him even in six mans, because I think it's a really interesting style when you mix it in. Yeah. But I get bored of it quite quickly.
Are you saying he's the Ric Flair of the Noah Junior heavyweight division?
There's just no escalation for me. It's kind of like
Ric Flair did, by the way, to point that clear.
Stuff. Oh, Hayata's one. We had that for 2 years. So, like, I mean, it's great that he didn't win. But there's a certain pacing to it and other stuff. Now that, for me, interestingly, I really like Okada, and that isn't, criticism people level against Okada, is that every match is an Okada match and nothing happens for the first 10 minutes. I love that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's because I love Okada, but because I think he does it in a story-based way, and there are lots of people who have lots of character they bring to those first 10 minutes that makes that okay. But I don't think you can do it with a guy who doesn't talk, and his whole thing is kind of being a black hole of stuff. He's shown the most personality, in the last year, so it's good. I'm really interested in the tag match when him and Kenta face Bushi and Naito. I think it's gonna be great. This was fun.
Like I said, I don't think it's like going to tear trees up, but it just intrigued me because I kind of like Hayata, and I just wanted to see Bushi and see what he was going to do, and it's just like, this is really interesting. This isn't justifying the faith that Naito's had in him, and I think this is good, but other people clearly didn't agree with me. Oh well.
I think it's a good start, and I think it was a good place to start, because I do think there are things that he can do with Hayata that maybe he wouldn't get to do with other members of the roster. So it is a good start, but I think there's so much more.
We move on to the semi-main event of the evening. Dragon Bane, Jack Morris, and Yoshiki Inamura defeated Team 2000X, Kai Fujimura, I'll get it right, Ozawa, and Takeshi Sugiura in 12 minutes and 20 seconds. This was when Fujimura tried to strangle Dragon Bane with his t-shirt. Speaking of Bushi, always having his move stolen.
I was just like, I've called this the Kai discovers he has a kink match, because he was really liking the choking and all of this.
Yeah.
Not just with the t-shirt, like he was going fully for the throat early on. He was having a very, very good time. I quite like his unhingedness.
We should explain, he has recently joined Team 2000X.
And drawn a giant X on his face.
Yes. Which is showing some commitment to the bit, let's be honest. How are we feeling about that?
I don't know. Like every now and again, I see it from certain angles. I'm like, yeah, that looks really cool. But then I see like Wolf's mask, which is actually really cool. I just think, oh, you've just like tried to do a kind of impression to it, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, they are supposed to be insecure, and they definitely are. All of them. They shouldn't be shouting so much, really. Could be a lot calmer about things.
They're a mess.
Yeah, absolutely. Horrific bunch of skip faces in that particular group of people. From a character wrestling point of view, I'm sure they're all lovely in real life. However, this match was pretty chaotic and in the crowd, and it was kind of like, yeah, take a luchador home with you day again. But there was lots of stuff going on in this match, and it was a fun blast. But it didn't really move the needle anywhere else on stories. It was just kind of there. And I don't necessarily that's a bad thing. It was fun and the fans enjoyed it. Probably did not enjoy DQ finish, as no one ever does.
Yeah. I actually was really interested. The bits between Bane and Ozawa. Not a matchup I ever would have particularly thought about. It's like, ooh, they're really interesting together, because obviously Ozawa can move like that. And I think Bane has always been really good at kind of generating a certain amount of heat with his opponents, just kind of in a very short space of time. And I think, yeah, I'm like, there's something here. So I want to see a thing too.
They did stand out to me as well as the pairing that had the most chemistry, certainly.
Yeah.
Is there any further news on the Jack Morris Revolution kind of, how can I put it? Best way of putting it was foreplay that we had in January that just kind of like died off. I'm not going to turn on you, but
yeah,
okay. I don't hate you.
I'm not sure what's going on there. Because he was just back to his usual, let me pose, let me do some stuff. Audience loves me, I'll walk out. And that was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Noah has this habit, and it not just here, but I think actually throughout this whole show, I was very reminded that it has this habit of treading water with storylines, sometimes longer than they need to.
Yeah.
And I feel that we could be going that way with kind of Inamura. I mean, I talked last time about where I think it could go, but I feel like we're probably very much they're gonna pull it out for as long as possible. I think they pulled out some of Ozawa's stuff a little bit longer than they needed to. There's been storylines at Treadwater for 2 years. You've got to enjoy the payoff with this bloody company.
I mean, this is the thing. Is like me and Chrissy talk about this all the time. Is like New Japan's possibly worse because they'll set an idea just to see if it'll happen, then not follow up on it, and you're like, hey. Whereas this was if you're patient, this might be worthwhile approach of like, well, we're going to lay a seed out there and we're going to act on it eventually, but we're not going to tell you when. Isn't necessarily a bad thing because it does kind of like retain you, like oh. But yeah, I think you're right. Sometimes they do try to tread water for a long time on things.
The thing is, you've got people in there like Keno who are incredible at keeping and twisting those threads for several years. Jack's not that guy.
No.
And
that's
fine.
Awesome. But subtlety is not his strong point.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, so you need him, give him something to do. He's not a talker because he's not in the kind of faction. He's not in a faction to give him that kind of talking space. It's not quite working for me. But this was kind of a lead up for Inamura and Segura's eventual match. And I would love Segura as champion. Actually, that would. I mean, I love Segura. I just think he's really good, and he's not leaned as heavily into some of the Team 2000X stuff that annoys people.
Yeah.
And certainly, I mean, Inamura at the end of this was kind of like, I just want to fight you, like as you are, as a man. I think the translation, automatic or otherwise, was naked, which I do think Segura would do. Let's assume
would do that, yeah.
as honourable men. And the thing is, there was this real difference for me in the way that Segura was just hitting Inamura, just like really hard, because he's a tough dude and he hits really hard. And Inamura looked positively cartoonish, as he does, but like a lot more physically cartoonish than I'd seen him almost against anybody else. So I'm actually kind of a lot more interested in what them together is going to look like.
Yeah.
Because you can't just overpower somebody with, I'm a really big guy and I can flatten you.
Yeah. Yeah, I will enjoy it as just an outside observer of liking big tough men hit each other. So kind of, I think that's the thing is, with a company like Noah that's trying to reach kind of like a consistent draw, matches like this obviously attract people like you who are interested in characters and long-term stories, but also attract people like me who just like good stiff wrestling, and this kind of ticks both boxes. And don't think it's a bad idea. You can't do it every time. They haven't got that roster of guys like they used to have to do this stuff all the time. So there's only about 4 or 5 of them capable of doing this kind of thing. So you get the most of it while you can. But I think it's a really cool idea. I agree with you.
Yeah. Segura's like level of violence is just genuinely kind of inspiring to me. Like, even as a face, he is absolutely terrifyingly violent because he will just go places.
No, because it's the dead eyes. It just doesn't looks like he just doesn't care about anyone or anything. The sociopath tendencies of Segura are just amazing. Like when it was it M's Alliance, and he was looking reasonably friendly, and his idea of reasonably friendly was getting his tag team partner a fake belt. That's about as nice as it's ever been in the last 15 years. And that's it.
boyfriends for a while there. That was very, very charming. But he never stopped being incredibly violent and terrifying the second he got in the ring,
No,
which I
absolutely
find
not.
incredibly lovely.
Yeah, that's the thing. And obviously, like, it's interesting in T2000X because obviously he was the first of the Noah guys to turn on Noah and join Suzuki-gun as well back in the day.
Yeah.
He's the least trustworthy person on that roster by a long way, despite the fact he kind of like embodies everything that Noah is. More than willing to sell them for every opportunity.
They fully did that as a total callback. It was traumatic, and I was like, well, this is very, this is very Imagine Ozawa thought of this. How he likes to traumatize the crowd a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else you'd like to say about this match?
Nope. Very happy. It was fine.
We move on to the main event of the evening, or late afternoon, which was DAGA challenging for the GHC National Championship. Was it United National Championship? I'm sure they said United National Championship. That's National Championship.
I just call it the National.
I did as well, but anyway. I'm sure the announcer said United National. I thought that's in the Triple Crown. That's an old AJPW belt. It's an NWA belt. Anyway, and maybe I started hearing things in my old age, which is concerning. Yes, Alpha Wolf making his first defense and certainly his first singles match as a heel. I thought this was an intriguing matchup for that reason because I wanted to see, like, Alpha Wolf is such a lovely, joyful, child-friendly cut-out character as a babyface because he's a big cartoon of a wrestler, and how he was going to cope with the fact that you can't do those things. He did very, very well because it turns out he's actually an exceptional Rudos as well as being an exceptional Technikos because he's a great professional wrestler. Just toning down everything and relying on power instead of flight was really cool. Just to see how he just tweaked everything, kept some of his signature stuff, but generally speaking was trying to powerhouse his way through this match because that's what he has to do now because he's not allowed to be flashy anymore. He's got to get the job done, and results will be required of you. And that was really interesting. End of the match, Team 2000 saw the match slipping away to DAGA and DAGA's tag team partner and junior heavyweight champion, of course, Daiki Adashima, came to his rescue, tried to come to his rescue, and did manage to get everyone clear out the ring, but eventually he would lose out to the numbers game. What did you think of this match?
I wanted to like this more than I did. And I ended up watching it twice, and I did like it more on the second watch through. I'm still trying to reconcile whether it's the match itself or just how I feel about where the National is in general here. I've never really connected with Wolf's single matches anyway, so that's kind of in there. And the DAGA matches that are my favorite are the ones where he really leans heavily into the technical stuff he can do. And he did some of it, but he that's not the kind of opponent you can do that with.
No.
In terms of his background. So it had some real kind of high point moments. You kind of knew, I think it's going to be at some point Daiki's going to get in the ring because, he's the little hero supporting DAGA. It's definitely a chance for DAGA to get the full baby face kind of bit. There were some pretty impressive physical moments, but it also kind of had everything. It had a bit of attacking DAGA's arm. It had a bit of technical stuff. It had a bit of flowing around. It had a bit of very heavy physical stuff. And I guess it comes down to my problem is, why does Wolf even have this belt? And why does DAGA want it? And that's the bit that's a little bit missing for me. And occasionally the National just does get a little bit lost from the kind of story perspective anyway. I think it's a case of you've got two guys who are effectively open weights. This is an open weight belt. Let's do that. It's interesting hearing your perspective though, because I think you're right. Wolf got to really show off that he can do this. And he got to do that from a lot of different angles because it was a 22-minute match, I think. I didn't use 22 minutes.
Yeah, it was. It says on cage match 22 minutes and 23 seconds.
There you go. So it was a lot of kind of getting to show that he can do a lot of things differently. He was mildly cartoonish as a heel, but at points, but that's okay because of the team he's in. So yeah, I wanted to love it because I really like Daga. I think Daga deserves a belt like this. I think he deserves lots of opportunities like this. I think he's been great in Noah, and his versatility both as a wrestler and also as a character, being able to believably, as the same character, play a heel and a face has been absolutely amazing in the last year or so. But yeah, the match didn't 100% hit for me. It was kind of like, it's good. But...
yeah, no, I can understand that. I think it did the job it needed to do, and sometimes that's enough. But also it's the main event of a show, and you're kind of like, well, you got to drag these people back next time, haven't you? That's kind of like your point. I think it was thrilling enough for that. I think it was entertaining enough for that. But equally, yeah, I think you're right. It's kind of like Dagger's such a nice character in the, like, from a point of view of he's relatable, and obviously, a lady who used to scream out for him at every opportunity at house shows must be very, very happy because she got all of her dreams come true. I think, yeah, but it's like, if one person likes him that much, there's got to be more people that are going to like him that much. And I'm not having a knock on Alpha Wolf, I think he's great, but equally, it's kind of, yeah, I think you're right. It's the position of where the belt is, and at the minute it kind of feels like a second junior heavyweight belt, not a secondary championship for the main division.
Yeah.
And I think
I really like the idea of open weight belts, but I like open weight belts that heavyweight and junior guys and open weight guys challenge for. And no, it keeps ending up with this kind of thing where it leans towards guys who are in the middle because they don't really know what to do with them in their other divisions. And I think that's a mistake.
I think a couple of years ago when it was passing around like Keno and the big names in the heavyweight division, it felt more present.
Yes.
It felt like Orca had it for a while as well, and it felt like it was a belt that was doing something, whereas now it's kind of like a belt that's there and not necessarily propelling the person that's holding it forward, nor is the person holding it making the belt.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, that's the exact relationship I think you need. It's got to be doing something for both.
Yeah.
I mean, Wagner Jr. I end up calling him. Yeah. His reign was like outstanding with that. Like really made, and we've had some really amazing reigns with that belt, like Segura's, Keno's, really interesting. Ulka really wanted that belt. There was a reason why it was the perfect belt for him. So I'm not really sure. I know he would be sure why Dagger would have it either. It's just I like Dagger slightly more than Wolf, so I would have accepted it better.
I think that's the thing though, is like it used to kind of like I would see it in kind of the same vein as like the Intercontinental Championship in WWE or the International Championship in AEW a few years ago, whereas now it's kind of closer to the Never Openweight Championship in New Japan.
Which is not where you want to be.
No. And the Never Openweight Championship has a specific style and lineage and its own history that's very much about, actually, funnily enough, very much about Kings Road Wrestling. It's not really a New Japan title at all. And you only have to look at the fact that the people have held it, that they're not really New Japan style wrestlers. Like an only mini kind of Noah All Japan thing in the middle of our show. We'll let them have that. And it's kind of like that's fine in the context of New Japan Pro Wrestling, but this feels like it's not pushing either of these two forward, nor are these two bringing it up, which is what needs, one of the other has to happen.
Yeah.
And things could improve for Alpha Wolf as he goes through this championship reign, and we hope it does for his sake. But yeah, damn. What's your overall impression on the whole show?
Yeah, I mean, it felt like a house show. It had a title match on it, but it felt very much like a house show, which is a shame. I think I like it when they come to Osaka because they have a number of Osaka wrestlers. They can do something with that. in terms of getting certain crowds in and working people up. That wasn't this show, which is fine. They go to Osaka fairly often. It's not too bad, but at point has been one of their secondary kind of places, so it wasn't up to the usual kind of area of that. But it was a decent house show.
It wasn't obtuse enough to be a bad starting point for someone watching Noah for the first time, though, was it? It was like there was a lot of good stuff. You kind of got a rough over of what's going on in the promotion.
Yeah,
I think it's a nice way to start. If you're going to start watching Noah this year, this would be a good place to start. It gently introduces people.
Yeah, and like a lot of the stuff is quite obvious. Like, right, those are the heel guys. We like these guys. That guy's a bit cheeky. It's all very kind of upfront. For somebody who wants the storylines to move on, that's more challenging. But it's a great entry point. And you're not. The thing is, it's a relatively quick show. You're not going to have a bad time with any of these.
No, it flies along. It's a lovely piece of work from that point of view. It does what a house show's supposed to do, which is keep people intrigued about what's going on with the main stuff and sell some tickets, which it did. So that's the main thing, isn't it? Yeah. All right then. Brings us to a wrap on this particular episode of the Troopany Show. Where can we find you on the internet, Ruth, and what are you doing at the moment?
So you can find me at Ruth is an Otter on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Instagram. And I also run a website called 60minutedraw.com, which does articles on storytelling in Japanese professional wrestling. We just had an article out recently around Dragon Gate, so that's definitely worth checking out. Some really good Dragon Gate stuff on there now. I've got some really nice people writing on that, so do go check that out. I am currently in the middle of writing 2 articles, both of which are about Noah. One about Amax's reign. He will now become the person I have written about most, apart from Kaito, because Kaito, the rage against Kaito makes me type a lot of words. And I'm also writing something about Ozawa and the politics of truth, which is going back to me trying to bring in a bit of academic stuff to Ozawa lying about absolutely everything and it being hilarious.
There's a lot of that going on in the real out there world at the moment.
He's a perfect mimic. He's amazing.
Yeah, he's absolutely brilliant at that level of outlandishness, telling the big narrative to distract you from the actual thing that's going on.
Yeah,
it's great. He's fantastic at that. You can find me at Sheriff Lone Star on Twitter, Mastodon on Blue Sky, and PixelFed if you want to go look at my pictures. I take lots of them. You can also find the show, Troopany Show, on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Blue Sky as Troopany Show. We hope you enjoy your week. We'll be back next week. We'll be looking at Marigold. No, that was last week. We'll be back next week. Let's leave it at that. I've got confused on my timelines again. Take care, and we'll see you in 7 days. Oh, there'll be a Wrestling Rewind on Wednesday, and there will also be a Friday re-release on Friday. We're going to try and do 3 shows a week now because we're professionals with lots of contacts and people who do shows for us. It's going to be awesome. Take care, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye.